Hey, mahal everyone! Welcome back again to the Broadway Saiyan YouTube channel. I'm your host 40 and we are back with another video on the Alchemist Code. In today's video we have another character spotlight, and this time it's going to go over Reimei, who is currently featured on the summon banners right now. Now before I start this video, I do want to remind you guys that this week I am going to be starting my stream on Twitch. We're going to be streaming Alchemist Code, and we're probably also going to be streaming Honkai Impact 3. I don't know when exactly this week. I'm hoping for either tomorrow night or even Thursday. I'm still trying to get all my setup ready. I want to give a big shout out to a good friend of mine. He goes by the name of Clake Uzalt. If you guys don't know who he is very popular. He's a great streamer for Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, so check him out. He was helping me a little bit last night on getting things set up, and I'm very, very eternally grateful to him. So be sure to check out Clake Uzalt. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and dive right into this video and our character spotlight for Reimei. Okay. So, Reimei, what do we know about Reimei? Let's take a look at his flavor. He is from Wadatsumi. There is his height, weight, birthday, blood type. Zodiac is Moon of the Imperial Fire Vault. He likes sweet bean desserts, and his hobbies are watching traditional Wadatsumi dance. He is the last descendant of Shiba Senko, the most detested faction in Wadatsumi. He defeats his opponents through forbidden techniques regarded as foul and cowardly. In his loneliness, due to being a hated individual, his secret enjoyment during his free time is to enjoy sweet bean desserts by himself. It's a very interesting individual. He's kind of shady, and he also fights dirty and cowardly, and then he likes sweets. Kind of interesting character right there. But yes, that is our boy Reimei. And then his leader skill is, okay, so his leader skill, Raging Fire's Worship. So in-game it says raises physical defense by 50% for fire units. However, it was confirmed that this is a typo. His leader ability actually boosts physical attack by 50% for all fire units. So not physical defense, physical attack. So just keep that in mind. And then there is his range right there for his normal attack. Now, across all of his jobs, which is ninja, martial artist, and samurai, he has a range of 0 to 1, so standard melee range. Now, we're going to briefly go over his jobs. His job 1 is ninja. Again, we all know this pretty well. We have enough ninjas in the game. But to just go over what he gets ninjutsu and basic ninjutsu. Some of the more noteworthy abilities, especially from basic ninjutsu, is he has access to his seals, which are different elements, so it gives him elemental flexibility. If you go to ninjutsu, he gets the ability to raise his own evasion rate. He also gets the ability to inflict status ailments along with physical damage depending on which ability you use. And he also has Smoke Bomb, which is a pretty nifty. He can inflict blind around enemies around him. And then for passives, he gets one of the best passives in the game to me for mobility, which is Ninja Stealth, which gives him an additional move +1 and jump +1. And his counter ability, or his reactive ability, is Poison Fog. Very situational. When he's attacked, he has a chance to inflict poison on an enemy, which is a dot, which ticks away 10% of their health for 3 turns. It's very situational. I don't really recommend it, but if you find some niche uses for it, by all means go for it. And then his second job is Martial Artist. Now, as a Martial Artist, he'll gain access to combat and basic combat. Now, Martial Artist is very similar to Holy Brawler. However, Holy Brawler is regarded as the upgraded version of Martial Artist, but as a class itself, they're very, very similar. Their abilities are very, very similar. So, combat, he gets Inner Eruption, Blasting Wave, Random Strike, Firm Fist, and Divine Fist. All of these, again, are very, very similar, if not almost exactly the same abilities as Holy Brawler, except they're just named differently for martial artists. Like, for example, Blasting Wave is the exact same technique as, what was that technique? The Shockwave, the Palm Shockwave from Holy Brawler. It has the exact same range, it has the exact same height range, so just keep that in mind. And basic combat, again, very, very similar, and they get charge up, which we all know that's very useful for boosting your attack by 2.5. And he also gets condition control, so a way to remove status ailments away from him. And then he gets roundhouse kick, which is very, very similar to whirlwind kick. Let's see, the passives he gets is Toughness. Toughness increases his maximum HP, which is very useful for survivability. He gets Strike Mastery +1, not +2 like Holy Brawler, but so +1. So he still is able to buff up his strike attacks if you choose to go Martial Artist. So Strike Mastery +1 is pretty cool. And then he gets Counter, which is this one is a chance of performing a physical counter. So unlike the one from Holy Brawler, which is guaranteed, this one is just a chance. So again, Pretty good, not as good as the Holy Brawler version though, but still Martial Artist is a fairly good class. And then his last class is Samurai, and I did not unlock Samurai for Reimei because unfortunately I did not have enough of his soul shards. However, we do have a Samurai we can look at that I have, and that is our boy Zangetsu. So, as a Samurai, Reimei will have access to Blade. So Blade has the ability to give Reimei the buff to his physical attack and crit rate with Watching the Flow. He also has Drawing Slash, which has a range of 1, Scope 3 lateral, height range 1. And then he has the ability to use Steel Cutting Blade or Steel Cutting Flash, which ignores defense. So great for farming up, you know, let's say those metal ratties that resist physical attacks because they have high defense, this ignores defense. And then for Basic Blade, for each of these different abilities, he inflicts physical damage and then it has a chance of lowering a specific stat. The only problem with this is they're all essentially melee range. If these were, like, let's say, like, if they had a little bit more range than melee range, it'd be a little bit more useful. But, you know, they have their uses. If you want Reimei to be a unit that's lowering stats of specific enemies, like, I can see this being useful for long boss fights. Should we start getting, like, you know, harder content and harder bosses, maybe this would be something useful where you could lower their defense or lower their agility or attack. But for now, I would say that this is probably his most lackluster secondary ability available to him across all of his jobs. As a Samurai, Reimei will get Single Blade, which Single Blade is very similar to Overdrive. It raises physical attack, however, at the cost of lowering evasion and agility. So it makes him a little slower and makes him a little bit easier to hit, but he gains an attack buff. And then he gets Tsubame Geshi, which is honestly the exact same as Counter for Martial Artists. He has a chance of performing physical counter when receiving damage. Even the range and height is the same. So both of these abilities are very similar. They're the same thing. As passives, he gets Enhanced Counter, which Enhanced Counter greatly raises his physical and magic attack when performing a counter. So if you want Reimei to make use of his counters, this is one way to make use of it. Although I don't really recommend it because as a unit, I mean, you don't honestly want to be getting hit that much, especially within melee range anyway, so, but it's up to you if you want to buff up his counters. Alright, so after going over his jobs, I want to do something a little different with these character spotlights. I want to add recommended setups for each jobs, depending on what job you go for those characters. So we're going to go ahead and do that right here. Let me just switch screens here. Alright, perfect. Okay, cool. So now we're going to go ahead and look at, these are my personal recommendations, okay? So if you guys have any suggestions or any corrections you feel that, you know, I should make, definitely post them on the comment section below. So let's say you want to go as Ninja for Reimei. My recommended setup would be, obviously you're going to have to use Ninjutsu, because, you know, that's part of his base job. And then for Ability 2, you go either Basic Ninjutsu or Basic Combat. Basic Ninjutsu will give you that elemental flexibility, you know, with the seals, and then Basic Combat will give you options with Roundhouse Kick and also being able to increase your physical attack or being able to remove status ailments from you. So, you know, either one I feel like is good. It's really up to you which one you want to use. For reactive ability, either Counter or Tsubame Geshi, because honestly they're the same thing. They do the exact same thing. For passives, for Ninja, I would go Toughness. Reason being is you want more survivability. Ninja doesn't have that much base HP, so you want to go Toughness with that. And then passive 2, I actually went with Single Blade. Some people may disagree with this and go with something else, but I went with Single Blade because Ninja in itself is already a fast class. It already has high agility, so sacking a little bit of evasion and agility for that extra physical attack is actually, you know, pretty viable for Ninja Reimei. So this is my recommended setup for Ninja Reimei. Now, let's see. Let's move over. Okay, there we go. For Martial Artist Reimei, the recommended setup would be you'd use Combat, okay? And then you would either go, again, Basic Ninjutsu or Basic Combat, depending on what your party's needs are. I personally like Basic Ninjutsu a little bit more because of those elementals, but it's really up to you. Basic Combat is great too. Reactive ability is pretty much the same. Go with Counter or Tsubame Geshi. Passive 1 is Toughness. Again, HP is really important in this game, I feel, and survivability is always a good thing. And then Passive 2 is Ninja Stealth. Now, when you switch to Martial Artist from Ninja, you do get a decrease in mobility. So Ninja Stealth will allow Reimei as a Martial Artist to gain an additional +1 move and +1 jump, which gives him more options to move around the map, okay? And now the final class, which is Samurai Reimei. As a Samurai, you would set him up with Blade, and then you would also set him up with either, again, Basic Ninjutsu and Basic Combat. As much as possible, was it Basic Blade from Samurai, again, is very lackluster. Unless you find uses for it, I really wouldn't recommend that secondary set. And then reactive ability, you want to go Tsubame Geshi or Counter. And then for passives, go with Toughness for increased HP and Ninja Stealth to give Reimei as a samurai a little bit more movement. So those are my personal recommendations for each class. Okay, now a lot of people are saying, and even the in-game says, that the recommended class for him is Martial Artist. I actually do agree that Martial Artist is his recommended class because I feel like it's the most balanced. There's survivability involved. It has pretty good agility, not as good as Ninja, but it's still pretty good. And then also you can give him mobility from Ninja Step with Martial Artist. And as far as everything else, it has the most options as far as, offensive capabilities and even defensive capabilities. Now, I did forget to mention, so we're going to just go ahead and move around through here. I didn't add this in these slides, but when you master Ninja, the stat bonuses that you get for mastering Ninja are physical attack, agility, and crit. When you master Martial Artist, you gain a stat bonus for HP, physical attack, and agility. And when you master Samurai, you get a stat bonus to physical attack, dexterity, and agility. So keep those in mind. And what I'm talking about is whenever you master a job, you gain these stat bonuses across all jobs, no matter what job you are. Now, what are my final thoughts on Reimei? I believe he is a very strong character. He's a very solid character. Out of the box, he gets Ninja, so he has a pretty good class to start off with. He definitely, I feel, still needs all 3 jobs to shine. You could get away with just having job 1 and 2, because if you set him up as Martial Artist, there's really nothing that you really need from Samurai unless you want to slap on Single Blade. But I personally, for Martial Artist, I wouldn't lower his agility because it is a little bit slower than Ninja. The only issue here I see with Reimei is he gets overshadowed by other units who just do the job that he does, which is high DPS, high agility better. Like, for example, we have Shayna, or we have Balt, or even Suzuka. They all pretty much kind of outshine Reimei when it comes to DPS. But it doesn't mean that Reimei is a bad character. Honestly, he's a very, very good character. It's just there are better characters that are currently out. In Japan, we do have something to look forward to later on in the future where Reimei gets a job plus. I'm not sure what that is, but he becomes a whole lot more viable when he gets that job plus. Alright guys, well this is going to be it for my character spotlight for Reimei. I hope this was very helpful for you guys. If you did enjoy this video, please give this video a like and subscribe if you're new for future Alchemist Code and future Honkai Impact 3 content. Don't forget guys, I will be starting my Twitch stream soon. So starting tomorrow, I'm going to start leaving the link to my Twitch channel below on all of my future videos, so be sure to check that out. And I cannot wait to start streaming some content and creating more content for you guys. Once again, I'm the Broadway Saiyan. My name is 40. Stay tuned for the next video, and mahal, everyone.